Hey everybody, it's Carolyn. I'm not quite back, not quite well yet, but I do have something that I want to show you it's a kind of a housekeeping hygienealogy type issue, I guess you'd say. I'm looking at Harry Burland and the little wheel is spinning, moving very slowly. So let's look at the sources that are attached to him and then we'll be able to figure out a couple of things. Basically, my beef with this profile right now is that there's a listing for his death in Brooklyn, New York, according to the person who did the data entry. But there are no records showing that he died in Brooklyn, New York. And it is just not a good idea to list a person as dying someplace where you really don't know, whether they died there and whether it's true. So I want to look at his sources real quick. So I'm going over to sources. And what we've got the census for him, 1930. And I want to look at the attachments of that. So let's see, Harry. Okay, so this is a major problem. The person who attached this record didn't bother to carry the information, in this case, the census, from the census on the left-hand side over into the person's actual profile on the right. That means that when we look at the profile, we have no ready evidence that this person was alive in 1930. That's shabby. So what we're going to do is we're going to simply detach it. I don't know who tree helper is, but you're not helping. Detach, not even give a reason why, really, just because we're going to reattach it immediately. Well, as soon as FamilySearch lets us. And FamilySearch is moving slow today. It makes me completely insane. The idea is that you want to put in information that is provocative, that brings up possible hints, or that at least gives some kind of a general bracketing of this person's life. That means the birth information and the death information at the very least. Okay, it's detached. So here we've got Harry, and this says that he was born in Russia, and I don't know why it would be any different because there's no prior record that shows this. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go by, I'm going to go by what this record says and save it. And then let's see, we have an immigration record. And this is definitely him because his children line up and his wife lines up. So I'm going to go with the record that is relatively recent and that gives this information. And that is the 1930 census. It shows his immigration year and where he lived in 1930. And we're going to wait again. For a while, a little while, a long while, not sure. You can hum in the interim if you so choose. I do not choose to hum. Okay, next. Anna Burland is Anna Moyle, and she was born in Russia in the same year that they gave. But again, it was not attached to show in the easy lineup of information under her name that her residence was 1930 Brooklyn. So here's what we're going to do. Again, we're going to detach. Tree helper is not helping. And we're going to wait this out because we live and die by the spinny wheel. And Ancestry isn't even this bad. I don't know whether they're doing updates or there are a lot of people using FamilySearch at 7:55 a.m. Eastern time. I have no idea. I just know that it takes a while. Again, hum if you like. Okay, there we go. Now, we're going to go ahead and reattach this record, carrying the data over from the census to the profile. And I'll show you why this is important in a minute, but, well, maybe 2 minutes considering how unbelievably slow this is. I've been working on this large extended Jewish family, and I found a lot of errors, including one or two that were mine that I had to undo. And once again, the information was not carried over. We're going to detach. Tree helper, you were not helpful. It's not helpful if you only half do the work, I mean, I appreciate the effort and everything, But if you're not going to do the work fully baked, then there's no point in doing it at all. Leave it to somebody who does know what they're doing. And yes, that sounds snipey and snarky and mean, and I don't mean to be mean. It's just that it's really important to not do shoddy work, but most specifically when you're on this one world tree and it's basically crowdsourced. It just really makes me mad. One other thing that I saw was that one of the members of this family, someone had reserved their temple work, but that person is not related, and that person is reserving LDS temple work for a Jewish person, and that is against the rules. That is against church rules. We do not baptize people to whom we are not related, and we certainly do not baptize Jewish people to whom we are not related. If there was a conversion along the way, fine, that makes me happy, but otherwise, no. So, carrying the data over to reattach the record and provide actual information, that is correct. And again, it'll take a while. A few years back, I don't know how long ago, 10, 15 years, maybe longer, I'm not really sure, there was a rash of people who were members of the church who were baptizing and otherwise taking people to the temple who were either survivors of or killed in the Nazi concentration camps. Now, I find that really disgusting. And other people were just like, oh, I want to up my stats and take everybody to the temple. Well, that's not our business. It's not our business to effectively convert people in death who did not convert to anything in life. If they're Jewish, you're Jewish. And if you died in a concentration camps, so much more important to honor that death and that history than to just want to have a whole passel of people that we take to the temple and convert. I just don't even understand that illogic. So here's Martin, going back to the subject at hand. And again, it was not added properly to him. So you see the information on the right is the currently available information on Martin Isaac Berland. And what we're going to do is, again, detach. Tree helper did not help. Of course, neither does the spinny wheel. Ugh. Sorry, I get really annoyed at this. I get really bored. And I'm sure you're bored too, sitting here looking at nothing. But I promise you, there is a moral in this story. I'm really curious how many people who are watching this video actually do work in FamilySearch, because my sites have, over the past few years, changed from primarily Ancestry to primarily FamilySearch, and I want to make sure that I'm serving your needs as well as my own. So now we're going to roll back up here. Here's the record, and we're going to carry 1930 over from the census. We've already verified it's the same family group, and we're going to attach it. And we're going to wait for the spinny wheel, because heaven knows we should wait for the spinny wheel. If you don't wait for the spinny wheel, even if you hit attach, the record will not attach. So it's not a good idea to leave a profile or leave an activity while the spinny wheel is still a spinning. There we go. Now we're done. We've attached it to everybody. We've carried over the data. Why is this important? I'm going to back up and I'm going to show you Harry Berland's profile. When you look at a person's profile, you ought to be able to see under other all of the stats that are provided in every record that's attached. And it's particularly important right here, because I'm going to show you what I'm going to do here, that we see that this person was alive in 1930. He was born in 1886. So we don't know, at this point he would be, 40-something, early 50s? I'm a lousy math person, so you're going to have to do that math for me. But we don't have a death date for him, and we don't have a death place. We just have somebody putting in Brooklyn because they sort of thought that it was right. Again, a volunteer project. I appreciate the efforts and the sentiment behind a volunteer project, or somebody who refers to him or herself as tree helper. The fact, however, is it is not helpful if it is not correct and there is no data to back it up. Now remember, when we were looking at the census, the last evidence we have of this person being alive is in 1930. So when we go to put in death information, first off, we note that this person was born more than 110 years ago. That's the 110-year rule. FamilySearch assumes that a person is alive unless data is provided to prove death if that person was born less than 110 years ago. So all you ever have to do when you're entering new people is mark them as living if they were born less than 110 years ago from the date on which you were doing the adding of information. So here we are with death. All it says is Brooklyn, NY. First off, that's not correct. Okay, Brooklyn, NY. What if somebody from another country is looking at this? How are they going to know whether that is the United States or where else is there a Brooklyn? Is there not a Brooklyn in the Netherlands? It's again, shoddy work. It's not complete. So here's what we're going to do. The last piece of evidence we have of this person being alive is in 1930, and I'm going to double check the sources to make sure that's true. Yes, because this marriage record belongs to his son, Martin Isaac, and so he could be deceased and this record was created, right? Because like if I were to get married tomorrow, both of my parents are deceased, but it would still go on the marriage certificate that my mom and my dad are my mom and my dad. It would provide the names. This is not a record that proves the life or death of a parent of a person who's getting married. I hope that I'm making that make sense. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to the main information of his profile, and we're going to work on the death. So death, edit. First off, we have no evidence that he died in Brooklyn. He could have died anywhere. He could have gone back to Russia to visit. We don't know. So the main thing we know is that he was alive in 1930. So here's what I always do is I say after 1930, because that's all we know. Tap on the correct format. I'm going to go down here to the explain. I turn on my little mic and I say, appears in 1930 census, but not thereafter, period. That is an actual reason why. It's not my grandfather or dot or too old or all the kinds of nonsense that people put in. Nobody cares if it's your grandfather. The only thing we care about is proof. And the proof is that he was in the 1930 census, but he did not appear thereafter, and that's all we've got. Now, it is likely from this family and looking at this family that he did die in Brooklyn because all of the other data points to him living in Brooklyn. But we're not going to put it there because we have no evidence. So I'm going to back arrow and it's going to continue to spin. But what we've done is we've provided information that tries to bracket the life and that might provoke a hint either on FamilySearch or on Ancestry. That's the important part. So this is what drives me crazy. And as you can see, under other, everything is lined up. And that's important. The sources, let me look at this. This is for his son, Herman. Spouse. And there's Herman. So again, when Herman died, it didn't ask, and are your parents living? The record asks, who are your parents? And that's it. So that's why we don't, throw a fit about, oh, Harry must have been alive in 1936 when his son, when his son's Social Security record was present. That's not the point. The point is that we're trying to provoke good information to come up, considering we have not a lot of information for Harry Berland. Okay, I hope that was clear. I hope I didn't ramble. The spinning wheel is making me a little insane this morning. And I hope that you are all doing well. And again, hit me up either under this on YouTube or on Patreon. Let me know, are you in fact working in FamilySearch? And if not, where are you working? What would you like to see videos about? That would be great. Thanks so much. And I'll be talking to you maybe not too soon, but soon. Okay, bye.